Why does your budget take so long to balance? Can't we do this faster? Why would you cut entitlements but not foreign aid? Look, these are great questions, Michael. Let me get to the second first. We cut everything across the board, including foreign aid, and in addition to reforming entitlements. Why does it take so long to balance? That's a very important question. We have to use, unlike other people who offer budget plans, the Congressional Budget Office baseline. And the Congressional Office baseline assumes really slow economic growth because it assumes we have a massive tax increase in January. And so what happens is we have to apply the economic assumptions of CBO under what is the baseline of the Obama economics to our budget. But if you actually take a look at what good economic policy would produce, if we can get back to decent economic growth, which we believe our policies and our budget would achieve, we showed an alternative growth scenario on our Budget Committee website that shows our budget would balance within 10 years if you had decent economic growth. Unfortunately, because we had to use the measuring stick of the Congressional Budget Office, which does not incorporate the effects of the policies we have in our budget, it shows a long time to balance.
Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul says if he is elected president, he's not going to mess around. He will slash $1 trillion from our federal budget. You know, let's go through some of the ideas that you have for cutting $1 trillion from the U.S. budget if you're elected. It would be to eliminate the Education Department and the Energy Department, the Commerce Department, Interior, and also Housing and Urban Development. Some of those would get some cuts to their agency budgets, cuts to EPA, cuts to FDA, eliminate foreign aid was also among your ideas, and to cut defense as well.
The balanced budget comes in 3 years, but the first year, to show the whole country that we're serious, we cut $1 trillion of all this unnecessary bureaucratic spending and get us back to a constitutional government. And I think the people are with us on this. This is why there's demonstrations in the streets. What I'm trying to do is prevent the violence that we're seeing in the European streets, and just look at what's going on in Greece. So, I mean, we're in the midst of a worldwide debt crisis. It's a sovereign debt crisis that if we don't deal with it, it's going to be catastrophic. And I don't think people realize how serious it is, and that's why I think it takes a serious approach. The budget threat in the domestic economy is the biggest threat to our national security. Just think of how the economy brought the Soviets down on their knees. They had all the military power they wanted, but economically it was unsustainable and their empire collapsed. So I would say that he's looking at the wrong problem. And besides, it's wrong to equate military spending with defense. I don't want to cut defense. I want a better defense, a stronger defense, but I want to defend this country. I don't want to defend the borders between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I want to defend the borders between Mexico and the United States. And there's a big difference of defending this country in spending endlessly. But I think it shows a lack of understanding of economics if they think that they can spend money endlessly, that the budget doesn't matter, and that you can run up these deficits. We're in the midst of a worldwide sovereign debt crisis, and we better come to realize how serious it is.
The debt is going to continue to go up. There's not any one agency that's going to be removed. And the goal is to maybe balance the budget in 30 years.
That's right. You mentioned a brilliant point, Congressman, as you often do here, that the debt goes up. I mean, people think we're at best curtailing the growth of debt. This is the most ambitious of the announced plans out of Washington. I know yours is fairly aggressive as a presidential candidate. But best it does is slow the rate of growth down. But it means at the end of 10 years, we're going to still have about $4 trillion more debt under the best assumptions. So what do we do? What do we do?
Well, first we have to recognize and admit that we're in the middle of a debt crisis. You know, Keynesianism teaches that debt isn't a problem. If you're in trouble, you get more debt and you spend more money. So that's their philosophy versus that of some of us who think that that isn't the problem. We're spending too much money. That is the government spending too much money, and we want the people to spend that more money. So if it's a debt crisis, you can't solve this problem by pretending that you might balance the budget in 30 years. I think we dwell on the budget, and I think it's important, but to me, it's a problem of what the people think the role of government ought to be. See, Paul, who I think he's very sincere, and his budget is obviously better than Obama's, but he said that he's being brave to cut these sacrosanct social programs. But he adds money to the militarism overseas. to the warmongering going on, they won't touch that. And in my program, matter of fact, I address that first. I want to get home so that you don't have to attack child health care or Medicare, even though those programs are bankrupt. You have to deal with them. But even in my first year of cutting $1 trillion, I don't touch that stuff.